Today on Top 3 Reviews, we will be looking at premium routers. First up is the Asus RT-AX89X. The biggest selling feature of this router for me is obviously the two 10 gig ports. You got one RJ45 Ethernet 10 gig and one SFP Plus 10 gig port. Amazing for networking. The biggest con of this router is obviously the lack of Wi-Fi 6E for the price, but given how mature the software is for Asus and Wi-Fi 6 being more than adequate for the 10 gig speeds at the moment, you're not going to go far wrong. The 8 antenna on the router obviously give a very good signal throughout most homes unless you've got a mansion. You could comfortably use the Wi-Fi for most of your networking needs unless you're obviously in a production environment. So on that front, for the gamers out there, it has 8 gigabyte LAN ports. If you're anything like me with the gaming and you just don't trust Wi-Fi enough, then having 8 gigabyte LAN ports really does help if you have multiple devices in your house that you've hardwired in. 2 of the LAN ports on the router also offer aggregation, which is great if you want to speed those LAN speeds up a little bit, up to the 2 gigabyte per second. Software wise on this router, as usual, Asus, like I've said previously, very mature. If you're not happy with the Asus generic software, there's always the option of the Asus WRT Merlin third-party software that does a few little fixes here and there and also adds a few features like cron jobs, which is great. Generally though, if you haven't got a degree in IT, this router will give you everything out of the box that you need to have a great gaming experience, as well as maintaining all other devices in your home natively without doing too much tweaking to the menus. However, if you are a more advanced user, it will also give you all the options that you will need and require to set up the system and customize it exactly how you want it, which is really, really good. Let's talk about the main down point of this router, which is the lack of Wi-Fi 6E, given that it's got 10 gig networking ports. If this did have Wi-Fi 6E, you probably would be able to use this router for the next 10 years. Unfortunately, without the Wi-Fi 6E at this sort of price point, maybe is something to consider that you will need an upgrade at some point in the next 10 years when Wi-Fi 6E becomes more prevalent and the speeds are relied upon. However, at the moment, this definitely is a standout router with all the features you'd expect, with phenomenal speeds, great, fantastic coverage from the 8 antenna. You will not go wrong with this router. Currently sat around £400. Some retailers currently have this on offer for below £400, so maybe a good idea to look for this at the moment before it goes back up in price. As you can see, the RRP from Asus is £410, so at the moment being around £380 from the sites that I've linked on my website, top3review.co.uk. Link in the description below. You will be able to get it under this price, which, like I said, really good deal at the moment. Specs wise, with a quad core processor, as you can see, and a gig of RAM, this will handle anything you throw at it. What a fantastic router. Really can't go wrong with this, providing your budget does reach this high for the router in your home. Another great feature that I've used personally, as I have 2 Asus routers, is the mesh system that this offers. It's very easy to integrate more than one different type of router. Overall, wow, good router. Next up is the Nighthawk AXE11000 tri-band Wi-Fi 6E router. This obviously has an advantage over the Asus where it does offer 6E. However, that does come at an extra £150. Plus, or I should say minus, it doesn't have the 10 gigabit networking ports, which makes me think that this is targeted more on those who do not like a wired network and are more centered around a wireless sort of operation in their house, as it can still offer very good Wi-Fi speeds, and the majority of your networking tasks will be done over Wi-Fi rather than wired connections using this router. Just to back up this point a little bit, this only comes with 5 networking ports, apart from the WAN port. So the reduction by half of the number of wired ports compared to the Asus, clearly this is designated to be more of a Wi-Fi router. Or they're expecting people to pay extra for their switch. This Nighthawk router, however, does look aesthetically more pleasing than the Asus. The Asus has a crab-like appearance, whereas this is quite slimline, looks quite futuristic. The 8 antennae are in the 2 fins on either side of the router. Much easier to please your wife or partner on this one than the Asus, because it takes up around the same sort of desk space. Another benefit this has over the Asus is tri-band rather than dual band, which obviously for those 6 gigahertz people out there, you will be loving it. Again, a feature more inclined with people who want a Wi-Fi system and network. As with all these premium routers, it offers LAN aggregations on 2 of the ports, but as you can see, only offers 2.5 gig as the maximum for a LAN port and a WAN port, which at the moment is enough. However, future-wise, you're probably going to have to change this router in 5 years' time rather than the 10 years potentially that the Asus could keep you. Unless, like I've said, as the common theme is, you're very focused in your house on Wi-Fi rather than wired connections. Netgear, much like Asus, have a great software backing up their router, which does come with a handy app, which makes setup very easier to manage your network in general. Things like child controls make this a really good choice for those who can't run wires all around their house. Fantastic router, can't go wrong. Brilliant from Netgear. Next up, we have the TP-Link Archer AX11000. This is the lowest priced router on our premium router top 3 today. You can currently pick this up for under £300, which is, given the features, a fantastic price, especially compared to the other 2 we've reviewed previously. This router sits in the middle spec-wise of the other 2. The Wi-Fi speeds, as you can see, pretty much match the other 2 for around the 10 gigabit per second mark. Like the Asus, this only offers Wi-Fi 6 and not Wi-Fi 6E like the Netgear does, which, depending on your circumstance, could be a big negative for you, and again, for future, may come into play. There's a big focus with this router on gaming, as a lot of the features that it offers in its software are centered around improving your gaming experience in various ways. To be honest with you, I find this somewhat of a gimmick, as you can do all these things with the other routers as well without this need to center their selling point on gaming. Specs wise, this does match the other 2. It has a quad core processor with 1 gigabyte of RAM, so can quite easily manage a significant amount of bandwidth through it. Lots of traffic, lots of devices. Is not going to get bogged down at all. A very nice plus point the TP-Link has is the USB-C edition. The other 2 routers don't have that, which is great. So the results. And in third position, we have the Netgear Nighthawk RAXE500. Pretty much because of the price. And in number 2, we have the TP-Link Archer AX11000. Great all-rounder for a really good price. You've guessed it, in number 1 place is Asus RT-AX89X. Thanks, guys. But wait, I do have an honorable mention. I personally use a PFsense box that I purchased from AliExpress. They come in various specs, and they're pretty much bare bones. You can get them pre-configured with RAM and a hard drive if you wish at an extra cost, which puts it at the same sort of price point as the routers we've looked at today. However, the customizability that this gives you, either through PFsense, the software itself, or if you choose, you could use PFsense, which is an offshoot of PFsense, is really incredible. However, the huge caveat here is these boxes are nowhere near as simple as the routers that I've reviewed today. As a result, I felt these boxes had no place in the top 3. If you want full control over your network, these are the route to go. However, you will need a lot of learning to get these up to speed. Thanks guys. Have a good day.